don't have to be afraid of anything, 'cause you know the truth, and the truth is love, yes it is. Wasn't what they said to you, or anything that you learn from a book or from the news. It's not like that, 'cause it's a thing. It is something that you do. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo.
Welcome to the Bassline. Dr. Leonard Horowitz is an oral surgeon, a prolific author, and the leading exponent of the power and potential of the 528 frequency. He is the author of The Book of 528, The Frequency of Love and Prosperity. It is my distinguished honor to welcome back to the Bassline my friend, the inimitable Dr. Leonard Horowitz. How are you this afternoon, Dr. Horowitz? Are you
Jeremiah?
there? Oh, there you are, Dr. Horowitz.
Yeah, very good. I'm blessed, brother. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm blessed as well. I'm just doing great. I had a great gig last night, playing some soul and jazz at a lovely restaurant on the Upper East Side, and then I woke up early this morning to teach chess in the remote section of the Bronx, and now I ran down here to Midtown to get to the PRN studios for this interview, which I'm incredibly excited for. Before we actually embark on this interview, I want to make a few important announcements. First of all, this Sunday, it's actually perfectly apropos that we have Dr. Horowitz on the line, because this is my last episode before the next 528 frequency jam. So I have some incredible loops that are all tuned, they're performed and in the 528 frequency. And I have my bass guitar tuned with the note A being equivalent to 444, lining that up with the note C being 528. And I'm going to be playing lead bass over my own loops. And I have an incredible mbira player, which is also called the kalimba, depending, I guess, in what part of Africa the instrument was created. But some people call it the thumb piano, is a simple way of referring to it. But my friend mbira master Kevin Nathaniel is going to be joining me. We have Hassan Bakar on percussion. He's a drum and percussion master, and we're going to have some friends sitting in and jamming with us. But these 528 jams, if you haven't experienced them yet, please come and help build up this incredible new scene that is emerging in Harlem. It's at Rock Mill Fitness, another great place to know about, actually. It's a fitness space that gets converted into a de facto music venue, and the address is 274 Lenox Avenue, which is Malcolm X Boulevard, and that's 124th Street, so it's just barely south of the 125th Street station off the 2 or 3 line. And we'd love to see you there this Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Our doors. Music starts usually by 4 p.m. I've met a lot of great folks from the listening audience who have ventured to these jam sessions, and I'd love to see you guys again, and I'd love to meet more of you. So please come through. It's really a lot of fun, and you have to kind of experience.
And it's therapeutic.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeremiah, it's therapeutic. Anybody listening that needs to have a healing and has an issue, a health issue, absolutely go to the event, because the resonant energy frequency that everybody's going to be playing is going to be actually uplifting, energetically, spiritually, and in terms of rejuvenating. It is absolutely the best therapy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a real believer in it, because, I mean, I'll tell you, everyone is just glowing after these sessions. It's a room full of just happy people at the end of every event, which is really great to see, especially in a rough, tough city like New York. It's great to see so many smiling faces in one place. And of course, go to jeremiahhosea.com. Please buy the theme song to this show, Love's the Highest Truth. Buy it for $1. Help me become a millionaire. If I could sell that song 1,000,000 times for $1 a piece, I guess that would make me a millionaire. So everyone buy the song for just $1. RemoteLearningChess.com, of course, schedule your chess lesson with me, and Substack. Please check me out, Jeremiah Hosea on Substack. I have a bunch of awesome articles there. Please check out my latest article called Scratching the Surface that ventures into all kinds of topics. It's kind of an assortment of different topics compiled, but it's a nice reference point to introduce a lot of people to things we don't discuss, like GPOs, group purchasing organizations, and their role in our national economy, or things like altering people's personalities through parasites, toxoplasmosis, crazy stuff that we don't hear about on a day-to-day basis. So that's on Substack. But now let's get into this discussion with my friend, Dr. Leonard Horowitz. So I have to tell you, Dr. Horowitz, I love when I get to update my lexicon. I love the evolution of language. And I'll say, on this adventure of being a medical freedom-focused journalist, I initially said, look, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I just object to what's happening with these COVID shots. Then as I started to interview people and learn more and more about it, I said, you know what? I am an anti-vaxxer. I don't trust vaccines anymore, and I really am compelled by people I've interviewed, such as Dr. Leonard Horowitz, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Dr. Henry Ely. And then I saw you recently say, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm a vaccine abolitionist. And I love the way you asserted that. And I just went ahead and claimed that myself. You know what? Yeah, at this point, I'm the same as Dr. Horowitz. I'm a vaccine abolitionist. So could you explain to us the distinction you're making there when you burst past that threshold of being an anti-vaxxer and say, no, we're actually way past that. We're vaccine abolitionists at this point. What's the distinction you're making there?
That it's actually ungodly and it's unreasonable. It's insane, actually, to inject into your bloodstream through the skin, which is your number one God-given gift, a barrier against infectious diseases, because your skin has enzymes that destroy germs, viruses, and bacteria. And so the first concept of injecting into your bloodstream through your skin foreign RNA, foreign DNA, foreign proteins from bacteria, virus, fungus, yeast, chicken embryo, bovine fetal serum, monkey kidney tissues, and with smallpox, it's cow pus. To do that is actually insane. And so you have to question, how come we have all turned to claim or believe that vaccines are safe and effective when it's actually insane? And the answer to that is you're dealing with the pharmaceutical cartel that actually is intimately connected to the Central Intelligence Agency and the mainstream mass media mind control enslaving industry that basically has really dumbed us all down to accept and be submissive to our own demise. It's profitable. That's what they're doing. It's making mass fortunes off of humanity's suffering, and it goes along precisely with Bill Gates and his desire to reduce the world's population. So the global industrialists that are intimately connected with Big Pharma and the big vaccine industry, they want to kill about 6 billion people out of 7 billion. So, it's really insane. So I became a vaccine abolitionist. I want to stop it. Then, on top of all of that, you have the good news. We introduced it a little bit with 528 frequency. It turns out that the most advanced vaccines, such as the mRNA vaccinations, which have an impact contrary to what the officials claim, because they're lying. Everything that they've said has been a lie. Everything. So for us to continue to trust anything that they say is another sign of insanity. So basically, DNA is not what they've represented. I call it actually an antenna to God. And the reason why I call it that is because of frequency. In fact, sound and light signaling, which is all frequency-based mathematics, that is the principal function of DNA. It's the sound and light signaling antenna, and it receives and transmits these wavelengths, vibrations that impact what is called in health science cellular upregulation. And what does that mean? That's a fancy way of saying, literally, you're being recreated. Every nano instant, you're being recreated by sound and light signals issuing from your DNA, instructing all the cells to be in harmony, in community. Virtually communion divine is happening in your tissues because your cells are vibing together, which is why music, and we are the music fundamentally. You're being remanifested every nano instant in this frequency wave, ideally, of what is at the heart of the Holy Spirit power of love, pure love, which is 528 frequency. It's at the heart of everything. It's at the heart of the universe. We have now the science that actually proves, and the physics that corroborates, that the 528 frequency is at the heart of what is called the musical mathematical matrix of divine design, of universal construction, of universal administration. It's at the heart, 528 frequency. Now, what is that? Well, it just happens to be what you're breathing, oxygen. You're breathing oxygen. Where does oxygen come from on planet Earth? It comes from chlorophyll, mostly. Chlorophyll. What color is it? 528. What's that? That's the heart of the color spectrum, the heart of the electromagnetic color spectrum, the heart of the rainbow, the heart of sunshine. As above, so below. If it's true for the heart of the sun, true for the heart of the rainbow, it's true for your heart, my heart, and God's heart. So if you want to be in optimal divine communion, which is why I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to actually have a healing and heal all sorts of illnesses miraculously, because 528 is the miracle frequency of the original musical scale called the solfeggio scale. It was the original music by which the hymn to St. John the Baptist, the most spiritually uplifting hymn of all the ages, was sung. It was sung the third note. It's today do, re, mi. It used to be ut, re, mi. The third note, mi, stands for Miragistorum in Latin. In English, it's miracles. So you want a miracle to happen in your body? You want to understand how God works and the faith in the Creator and the relationship, the communion divine actually is administered? Go to 528. Go to the concert event that Jeremiah and his colleagues are hosting, because everybody's smiling at the end of it because they've been blessed energetically, spiritually, vibrationally to this magnificent frequency that gives us life. There you go. That's why I'm a vaccine abolitionist. It's insane, and there's a greater alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. So great introduction there, Dr. Horowitz. Thanks for getting us started with all of that great information. And I would like to shift to something we've talked about quite a bit here on the Bassline. We're keeping track of the ongoing toll of this mass inoculation event, this insane thing that was done where supposedly, apparently, billions of people were injected with mRNA injections under the guise of protecting the public, the global public, from COVID-19. Yet we've seen an unbelievable level of injury and death associated with these shots. Some people are making the connection. Some people are failing to do so. But it's just noticeable to me. I just see all these strange stories, both in my everyday life in terms of people I know from various communities, various circles of activity, people from the martial arts community, people from my musical community, people from the activist community, my neighbors, within my own family, seeing unusual health issues, people dying suddenly, all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, we have Professor Mark Crispin Miller's Substack that keeps track on a weekly basis of all of these unusual accounts of people passing out on stage, people announcing they have strange new health disorders, people dying suddenly. They said dying suddenly so many times, so-and-so died suddenly. They needed to start saying died unexpectedly, just to mix it up a little bit. So there's all this going on. Some people are pointing to increases in excess mortality, and I've noticed other people, they're sort of doing trickery with numbers. Like Mark Twain said, I think the quote was, there's lies, there's big lies, and then there's statistics. And there's all kinds of different ways you could manipulate statistics offhand. But my question for you, Dr. Horowitz, is what is the difference between conventional, quote unquote, so-called conventional vaccines and the new mRNA vaccines? Are the COVID shots the most harmful shots ever administered, or is it just more harm being inflicted because it was all done at once on such a massive scale across demographics?
We could spend about 3 hours on this question.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because, in brief, to directly answer your question, it is the most hideous and damaging, potentially risking the extinction of the human race, according to Elon Musk and his lawsuit, which I attempted to actually join Elon Musk in his lawsuit against Microsoft and OpenAI, which, if you go back about a month ago to President Trump's press conference on Project Stargate, where he promised that this was going to enable we the people to overcome cancer because of the injection of the mRNA vaccines that are going to be able to diagnose cancer cells within a human body within minutes, and then within 24 hours, the artificial intelligence will administer a specific vaccine for your unique cancer. And that's what Project Stargate is about. What he didn't tell you is that Project Stargate is a CIA operation from its inception. You go back, CIA created Project Stargate partly associated with psychotronics, with the brain cloud connection. Now, what Elon Musk with the Neuralink is investing in, but the devil doers are investing it for complete population control. Because when you get injected with these vaccines, contrary to what officials are falsely claiming, that the vaccines, the mRNA vaccines by Pfizer and Moderna, who I personally sued in federal court about a year and a half, actually 2 years ago, I had a pretty good result out of it. But the bottom line is that when you get injected with these, it carries with it nano. Here, I'm going to give it slow so you get it. Mm-hmm. Nano, that's tiny microbes. Mm-hmm. Tiny. You can't see it. Nanobio, it's biology. Electronic, that's electronics frequency. Nanobioelectronic technologies, devices, that is in the mRNA vaccine hydrogel. Hydro is water. Water is a liquid crystal superconductor of sound and light, so it's an accelerator of energy flow. Hydrogel, the gel is a fat, it's a lipid, it's a fatty tissue. So your vaccine, to get it to work, they coat it with the hydrogel that they're claiming does not contain what's called graphene. Now that takes you into the realm, incredibly, of Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates, and explains why they actually went to Harvard and MIT. It wasn't for sexual exploits. They didn't go there with massive amounts of money, nor did Epstein give to Stephen Kosslyn, the chief psychologist at Harvard, $200,000 for sex. No, that's a diversion, a distraction. Gates and Epstein went to Harvard and MIT. At MIT, they went to the Langer lab. The Langer is Robert Langer's lab. Langer is the number one financier of Moderna, the producer of the mRNA vaccine for Moderna. And he went to Harvard, to the Charles Lieber labs that the FBI lied about when they indicted Charles Lieber for Chinese espionage. They lied, claiming he was giving the Chinese car battery energy technology. False. They never did any car battery energy technology in Charles Lieber's lab. What they did was consistent with what was going on at MIT in the Langer lab and what Consolin was engaged in. Consolin, psychology chief at Harvard, was engaged in artificial intelligence and integrating the human brain, human cognition, human consciousness with artificial intelligence. And the technology to make that happen, that is the nano-neuro-bio-electronic technology, was Charles Lieber's specialty. What happened to Charles Lieber? He was indicted, convicted of Chinese espionage, and get this, he served 2 days in jail. A slap on the wrist, millions of taxpayer money spent to put him in jail for 2 days. He got out of jail, and then supposedly, as he was dying for cancer, dying of leukemia, false. He suddenly became really healthy again and contracted with the Chinese government and basically became China's number one ace in this whole field of nano-neuro-bioelectronic vaccination technologies. That's where it stands today. So if you ask me, what is the difference between current mRNA vaccines for COVID and regular vaccinations, I have to turn to what Elon Musk said. This technology is advancing in the, quote, wrong hands, end quote. The wrong hands are into depopulation, population manipulation, optimal fascism, optimal communism, optimal control of we the people, and basically taking over civilization and placing our entire species at risk of extinction.
Wow. Yeah, you're not pulling any punches here, are you, Dr. Horowitz?
No, I'm giving you the basic facts because I, as a humanitarian, listen, you are too.
Yeah.
We love each other because we're out there saving lives.
Yeah.
We do whatever we can to wake people up so that they don't make the mistakes. They don't fall into Satan's web. And this is the reality that we're facing. Now, what I've just done, I'm compelled to do not only by God, not only as a whistleblower and a watchman, I'm compelled by a United States law, 42 U.S.C. 1986, that says if I know something that could potentially hurt you or kill you, and I don't tell you, then I'm equally liable. That's consistent with what the Bible says, that the blood of the victims are on your hands. So I'm not going to go to heaven if I withhold this intelligence and I basically then cause millions of people to become dead. I've been out there for literally more than a quarter century on the matter of emerging viruses, laboratory manipulations, the threats to civilization from outbreaks. I've been out there for basically 30 years. I published the best-selling book in the field. It's always been, always will be. It's called Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola, Nature, Accident, or Intentional, 1996. Came out in 1996. You can get it from healthyworldstore.com, which is my store, or you can go to Amazon Kindle and basically get the book. At the end of reading Emerging Viruses book, you'll have more knowledge than your average physician in practice about virology and what's happening in the labs today.
Incredible. So you know what? I got to touch on that a little bit since we have you on the line and since you are the author of that seminal text, Emerging Viruses. there is this whole school. I've heard you in our personal conversations being very critical of this no virus camp. There are a lot of people in medical freedom who insist there's no such thing as viruses. There's no proof they exist. And everyone needs to understand that. A lot of people are very adamant to the point of saying we can't move forward with anything medical freedom until everyone understands there's no such thing as viruses. I've heard a lot of these terrain theory people. I know it's not exactly the same thing, but they tend to then align with the terrain theory or whatever. And I've heard a lot of just interesting discussion. I've heard a lot of people very sort of dismissive or angry at people postulating this no virus concept. I know there's some medical freedom doctors who have sort of started to lean in the direction of no virus theory throughout this whole COVID ordeal. And what is your take on this? I know that you've been critical of it. I'd like to hear what you say. How do we prove that there are viruses if you say that they exist?
Okay, great question. And the answer is yes. That whole HIV, for example, does not cause AIDS. This concept began with my work and the opposition that counterintelligence began to advance in 1996 when I came out with Emerging Viruses. First of all, before I get into details here, I understand your network is Gary Null's network.
Yes.
Give him my regards.
I will.
My best wishes.
Absolutely.
Because Gary Null was among the first really intelligent people to get my book, Emerging Viruses, and actually he gave it a wonderful, wonderful review. That's number one. So give him my regards. Number two is, at the time that Gary Null viewed this particular book and it started to get out to other colleagues, and particularly in virology, they became very concerned. What happened was that the man who created HIV/AIDS, Dr. Robert Gallo, you can actually go to medicalveritas.org. That's my medical journal. It's online. Medical Veritas, that means truth in Latin, medicalveritas.org, and click on, let's say, any of the articles dealing with HIV/AIDS. It'll reference this. But also if you go to my television network, which I had to form because I was censored on YouTube and Google and Vimeo, go to revolutiontelevision.net, and you can see that segment that's called The Man Who Created HIV/AIDS, Dr. Robert Gallo, and you can see me actually confronting Gallo at the 11th International Conference on AIDS in Vancouver, and whereby the people that I was engaged in as a graduate of Harvard in public health, publishing science articles in the field, basically heard that I was coming out with this book. And basically, as a result of that, and as a result of me publishing in the book, the United States government contracts. You want a smoking gun? I have a couple of them, including the United States government contracts reprinted in black and white, showing you exactly who created HIV/AIDS type viruses, Ebola-like viruses, when they did it, how they did it, virtually every step of the way in the labs, and then how much money U.S. taxpayers paid to finance them. It's all in the book, Emerging Viruses, which is the reason it became a bestseller and remains very popular. So, at any rate, what they mounted, as Gary Null very, very well knows, they mounted a counterintelligence program to divert from the evidence that I was bringing forth. And for damage control, they assigned people to create exactly what you're talking about. The virus doesn't exist. It's all in our minds. It's all drugs that we're taking, which is, largely true. But again, counterintelligence is 80% truth. They leave out 20% of the facts because, you see, in law, omissions, what they omit, and misrepresentations is fraud. This is a fraud. So they assigned, back then, the top expert in the field, working with Dr. Robert Gallo at the National Cancer Institute, financed by Fauci and his boys. Fauci, by the way, is the AIDS czar. So if you don't believe Fauci in what he's represented regarding COVID, think the fact that go back to the late 70s, early 80s, that it was Fauci who is the AIDS czar for the United States federal government. And Fauci basically knew that Gallo was working. Fauci knows Gallo very well, very, very well. And Fauci knows that Gallo's counterpart at the National Cancer Institute was Dr. Peter Duesberg. Duesberg was the one who started what you're talking about. Duesberg, who was manipulating viruses in labs. In fact, what Gallo was doing with monkeys, Duesberg was doing with chickens and other animals. And so Duesberg then was assigned, and I debated Duesberg 4 times on radio programs such as this. And every time he would not answer the questions. The direct question was, you produce these viruses. I have your contract in front of me. How much will you pay? You confirm this amount. And I basically exposed Duesberg, Dr. Peter Duesberg, for creating this whole concept that the viruses don't exist and the HIV/AIDS doesn't exist. Now, meanwhile, where's the evidence for that? All the people who initially advanced that stupid, deadly thesis, diversionary counterintelligence ploy, they're all dead. They had HIV/AIDS, and they say, oh, I'm not going to die because the virus doesn't really exist. They're dead. And so this is what we're looking at with that. I hope that answers your question, Jeremiah.
Yes, phenomenal answer, and it definitely gives me a lot to research and a lot to follow up on there. And excellent answer, and thank you for that. Now let's. Goodness gracious, Dr. Horowitz, I wish I could interview you for 3 hours, but this is unfortunately a 1-hour show. I want to ask you about your 528 frequency. Let's circle back to that. And I just want to know, how did you come across this? How did you get into this incredible research that you've been doing for some time? And then, of course, you published the 528 book that's so phenomenal. But how did you come across this incredible revelation?
Divine synchronicity, divine appointment, really. And I resisted. I hesitated. It's kind of like if God comes to you and says, you should do something. Typically, you don't believe it. You don't believe it. If Jesus came, if somebody calling themselves Jesus and anointed right now comes to you and says, I want you to do such and such, you would say, what are you, nuts? And that's basically what happened in 1998. I had, through a series of extraordinary synchronicities, I ended up knocking at the door of a naturopathic doctor by the name of Dr. Joseph Paleo, who was searching for the original solfeggio musical scale, by which that hymn I mentioned, the hymn to St. John the Baptist, the most spiritually uplifting hymn of all the ages, it was secreted by the Roman Catholic Church. And Joey, he was a good Catholic. He was a spirit-filled Catholic who was an honest naturopathic doctor, and he couldn't get it from the bishop. He couldn't get it from the cardinals. And so he prayed to Jesus to bring him the revelation. And Jesus showed up. Now, this is Joey's story. I wasn't there, but what I did ultimately, after refusing to do this project, which resulted in the book called Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse. The codes are the frequencies, and the code is in the book of Numbers. So Jesus, according to Joey's story, the first 6 chapters of the book, Healing Codes, is Joey's story. I didn't want to take on the project. It kept falling back in my lap, and ultimately I prayed to God, because I am a very, very spiritually oriented person. I prayed to God, and I said, listen, if this project is of your, requirement, I'll do it, but you've got to help me. Anyway, I got a lot of help from Creator. I ended up knocking on Joey's front door for a spaghetti meal after refusing to do so about a half a dozen times. And ultimately, Joey said, God brought you to me. I prayed to Jesus. See, after Joey got the frequencies and the revelation in the book of Numbers, the frequencies are encoded in the verse numbers of the book of Numbers. Chapter 7, verses 12 through 83. If you go there, chapter 7, verses 12 through 83, you start to read, and then you'll realize within that sequence, every 6 verse numbers, there are 6 notes of the original musical scale, every 6 verses repeats, identical. And the repeating verse in the verse numbers that lay out 5, 2, 8, 5, 2, 8, 5, 2, 8. It's a pattern. It's a sequential code that's decoded, decrypted, if you do what I'm saying. And then what you realize is that that repeating verse is the gold. Now, this is incredible. It is the gold offering to the holiest of holies in the temple. 528 represents the gold offering. Now, come forward to 2 years ago in the field of physics and quantum dynamics, and I talked about electrogenetics already. The bottom line is that there's a whole new field in physics and chemistry called plasmonics. Plasmonics. What's plasma? Plasma is ether. What's ether? Spirit, energy. And the science proved about 2 years ago, guess what frequency is coming off of gold? Pure 24-karat gold is resonating and broadcasting 528 frequency, consistent with the Bible code revelation that Jesus gave to Joey. So that's how I got it into this. But way back then, now this is 1998, I was just virtually recording Joey. The recordings became the first 6 chapters of the book. I then tied the revelations into the laboratory manipulations and realized that these revelations were fundamental and most important, quintessential to surviving the plagues. That's why the book is called Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse. And anyway, that's the quick answer.
Oh, phenomenal, Dr. Horowitz. I want to take some calls shortly, and we already have people on the line eager to talk with you. But I want to ask you to go a little bit more into what you mentioned earlier as well, which is this Jeffrey Epstein connection as it pertains to AI research, investment in research, and other elements there. You did I don't know if it's a podcast, you did a video recently going into depth about this. Could you just cover that a little bit more before we take some callers? What's the background there? And also, I would recommend everyone go back and check out the Bassline. I believe it's episode 92. I'll double check. But my second interview with the prolific researcher Destiny Resendez, who did some phenomenal coverage of the COVID Epstein connection. I think somehow this discussion makes for a nice tandem with that previous discussion. But tell us about some of this coverage you've been doing and some of this analysis in terms of Epstein and AI and other, biotechnical investments, just bizarre stuff that, we hear about Jeffrey Epstein, the sex trafficking, the sex abuse, terrible stuff. But we're not hearing about this whole other important thing in terms of what he invested in and all that he was doing, frankly.
Right. Yeah, the best resource I can give you is revolutiontelevision.net. Revolutiontelevision.net. Right on the home page is the video that you're speaking about, the latest video dealing with the Epstein, Bill Gates investments at Harvard. And the answer to the question is that they went there because, you see, again, the technology is the most sophisticated and advanced technology for population control, population manipulation. And a couple different projects, including Project Stargate, which I mentioned, and then what used to be called the Promise software. The Promise software, which engaged Israeli intelligence, the Mossad, the CIA. This secret program to gain access to computer technology through which the entire population could be controlled. This effort goes way back. It goes decades back. And today, it's the Project Stargate that President Trump just announced that features the mRNA vaccinations. And the technology they're not telling you that is developed at the Robert Langer and Charles Lieber labs at MIT and Harvard that Bill Gates was heavily interested in. So on the internet, there's images and pictures of Bill Gates together with his biotechnology advisor. His name was Nikolic, Dr. Nikolic, who was on the faculty at Harvard also. I didn't mention Nikolic. He's an important character because the picture with Nikolic and Gates has Epstein next to him, and they basically then were engaged with where Epstein gave $200,000 to the psychology chief at Harvard, and his name I mentioned was Stephen Kosslyn. And basically the effort was, again, not in sex and exploits in that way. It was in making money. It was in advancing this complete, total secret intelligence and capabilities to control the world's population. And that was the mission, that was the objective, and that was the great financial opportunity. And so Epstein, I conclude in this video, his main job was influence peddling. He represented the mega group from actually the Jewish mob. You know, we've got an Italian mafia, very, very well entrenched internationally, but heavily in New York. You've got particularly in Boston, you've got the Irish mob. And, of course, you've got the Israel, the Jewish mob. And the Jewish mafia is heavily, heavily infiltrated and connected to mainstream media, Hollywood, mass media, particularly the music industry. So go to revolutiontelevision.net. A couple videos back, I did a whole expose on Diddy and what the process that James Comey, previous FBI Director Comey, his daughter, Maureen, was the prosecutor who let Diddy off the hook. And then you look at Diddy's connections in the music industry. Wow, hello, Sony. Hello, what's Sony's connections? You got to now really start to realize that this is the most powerful mob. It's a racketeering enterprise. And that's what we're dealing with. So today's news deals with Tulsi Gabbard coming out and saying, James Comey and CIA Director Brennan and a few others in the Obama administration with Hillary Clinton, they were engaged in this Russian hoax, and today you still have the legacy media, the mainstream propaganda arm of the racketeering enterprise, largely controlled by the Jewish mafia, not entirely, mind you. And when you start to talk about the Jewish power and you begin to integrate what this whole Islamic issue is about, deception, you've got to go deeper, like peel back the layers of an onion, and you realize that the Jews got their money from the Roman Catholic Church. They've always been under the control of the church because the church can't loan money. Now the banking industry comes into view, where what's called usury, lending money, is an enslavement. That's why Jesus in front of the temple basically turned over the money lenders' tables and beat them with a whip because it's enslaving. And that's what this technology is. It's the maximal enslaving technology. Going back in Jesus' age, what happened was the Roman Catholic Church, basically, by religious doctrine, they would not loan money it was against the religion, because they didn't want the enslavement, which was really what Jesus was all about. Didn't want enslavement, wanted us free. And so the Roman Catholic Church did, and the Romans did, is they gave the banking powers over to Medici family, largely the Medicis, and they instilled a couple popes because they were the wealthiest, basically money lenders that was making money through usury, through loans and interest rates. So this is now where we stand today. You see it come right forward. And my big issue, as well as yours, Jeremiah, is that we're being poisoned. We, the people, are being vibrationally intoxicated with the A440 standard tuning that was imposed on us in 1938. So the music we're listening to and Diddy's whole connections to the satanic lyrics and the music of vibration, that the entire culture has now advanced under the direction and the impositions of the global elite, the mafia, the mob, the racketeering enterprise that we're dealing with, in heavily engaging the intelligence industry and the mass media mind-controlling mob. That's ABC, CBS, NBC, the standard propagandists. That's what they're outputting. So we're all now inundated, which is why you play 528 music, why you are hosting these events, why people are smiling afterwards, and why I listen to Dr. Leonard Horowitz's 528radio.com. 528radio.com is what I listen to. You may not like all the music because I'm 73. So I'm the baby boomer generation. Music is largely from the baby boomer generation. It's my favorite music. You might enjoy it or maybe not. But God bless you. At least you're listening to music that's vibrationally uplifting and soothing and basically helping you to feel better and actually heal miraculously, because that's the 520 frequency all the music broadcasting is tuned to.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, that's, I guess, a long-winded.
No, that's phenomenal. No, that's phenomenal, Dr. Horowitz. Thank you so much. And I have to say, I was learning a bunch of tunes for the past week, getting ready for a restaurant gig that I did yesterday with an old friend. I was really happy to get the call. Actually, the timing was right on because I do less teaching over the summer, so I kind of rely on these gigs to make it through the month. But just the music of Stevie Wonder, Steely Dan, Otis Redding, a bunch of different artists, the Commodores. Just wow, the music was just so well arranged. I really found myself in awe of wow, these folks really took the time to really write some songs. Nowadays it's just you have a mechanical drum beat and they call that a song, just one repetitive monotone beat. In those days, the special effects were the writing, the arrangement, the performance. So I'm definitely a fan of music from your generation, Dr. Horowitz. We got to get to some calls here, but right before we do, could you just tell us quickly some of the various websites people can track down your work from? How do people keep up with what you're doing? How do people order your books? Just tell us quickly how we stay connected with your work, Dr. Horowitz.
Well, thank you, Jeremiah. Yeah, the best thing that I'm offering right now, I think it's most exciting, is the 528 Therapatches, the technology of relieving pain and actually giving your body the energy of pure gold, 528, and pure silver, which is 417 frequency. That's silver. And they're harmonics. 528 and 417 are harmonic frequencies. So that's the silver and gold that you'll read in that section of the Bible. It's also, in essence, real quick, I wish I had more time, but the reason why the Egyptians, which predated Moses and Mosaic law, the Ten Commandments, before the Ten Commandments, you had the Egyptians and you had the pyramids. This is why the officials, the royals of Egypt, had basically laminated the pyramid capstones with silver and gold to basically sustain their physical corpses, their bodies physically would be sustained energetically, but also it was intended to commune their souls for eternity to God. That's what basically the ancient Egyptians believed. And of course, now we bring it forward to today. And the revelations in plasmonic science, it's the same. So the 528 Therapatches I'm most excited about, they're on healthyworldstore.com. Also, the entire field of, if I'm saying I don't want any vaccinations, if I'm a vaccination abolitionist, what I now understand and know for certain is that we have alternatives. We don't need to poison ourselves to kill off bacteria and viruses most effectively and safely. So oxysilver with 528 frequency is powerful. If you have a cold or flu you think is coming on, take 3 capfuls with prayer. I use prayer because I know prayer comes out of your heart in 528 frequency. So it basically communes with, or it basically accommodates, meshes with, and basically enhances the energy of 528 frequency in the solution called oxysilver. So it's a broad spectrum antimicrobial, antiviral, antifungal that is extremely safe, powerfully effective. You could give it to pets, you can give it to infants, you can put it in your eyes, you can put it in your ears. Nothing bad is going to happen. Only good can come out of oxysilver with 528. Then basically, there's all of my books. There's a number of other outstanding products, and that's on healthyworldstore.com. Science, my work, I've published a number of books as well as articles in this now emerging field of the connection between 528 and plasmonics and therapeutics. And that's on medicalveritas.org. I mentioned that previously.
Right.
Great journal. Anyway, I could go on. I mentioned 528radio.com.
Right.
I mentioned revolutiontelevision.com. There's several other websites that I've advanced, but I don't have the time right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So also, please just look up Dr. Leonard Horowitz on Substack. He has a phenomenal Substack. There's links to writings, videos, another great Substack account to follow by all means. So go check me out on Substack and go check out Dr. Horowitz. And yeah, we're in a new age of information. So we have some callers on the line. I hope that we can get them on with us. I hope there's not audio problems. I got a message someone was having an audio problem. But can we hear Tamara from California? Are you on with us? Can you hear me, Tamara?
I can hear you.
Oh,
Hi, Jeremiah.
phenomenal.
How
Okay,
you doing
great.
today, my friend?
How are you?
Yes.
So happy to hear from you.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be here. So I know you have limited time, so I'll just get right to my question. So I have just been diving down a different rabbit hole just because of our just the way our world is now. And you were talking about the Jewish mafia and stuff like that, and I just feel like these people are not scared about the end of life, death, and so diving down that rabbit hole, what is your take on like these like beings or bad people harvesting our souls, our energy? We are one, all energy, 528, God's language, or God's, that's his perfect language or perfect frequency. Do you think that is what is going on behind all of this? Is that they want to harvest our souls?
Yeah, that's exactly right. They're stealing your souls. And that's, again, souls, what is this? It's the energy. In fact, my theory on it is that your soul, your unique soul, because I understand the mathematics, the basic language of the Creator, and the administration using musical mathematics of the universe, I have to now theorize and presume that your soul is mathematically programmed with all of the issues that you need to deal with in this lifetime in order to then do what the Eastern theologists have claimed. You're basically creating where you are perfecting your divine communion to to the point where you don't need to reincarnate. You know, I'm a Christian Jew. You know, I love Yeshua. I love Jesus. I love his teachings. But I'm also aware as a scientist and somebody who has studied with Self-Realization Institute, Paramahansa Yogananda was a master for me for many years, who also loved Jesus. And basically, you know, the whole concept of the Eastern theology of reincarnation, which is not accepted, generally speaking, in the Christian community, it's accepted more so in the Jewish community, which is interesting.
Right.
But I believe in it. I do believe in it for a number of reasons, including some science. I've actually published one particular science article in the field of past life regression, and basically have to conclude that, yes, there is this continuance of a programmed soul energy. And then I also have to intertwine in this whole concept a dear colleague and friend of mine, brilliant genius, award-winning scholar, who's the director of the Pacific Psychiatric Institute. His name is Dr. Vernon Neppe, N-E-P-P-E. Very difficult work to read, but Neppe has proven mathematically the existence of God and the continuation of the soul after death. So Neppe's work with his colleague Edward Close, who's genius mathematicians, basically, if they've come out with this, published this, and been awarded, given awards, where they also claim that there's at least 9 dimensions right here, right now, surrounding you and I. You know, so that's where the angels and the communications and the correspondence, and I can tell you from my own life experience, there's no other way that I can explain how I've survived certain accidents without that divine parallel dimension, angelic protection.
Wow. You know what, Dr. Horowitz, I hate to cut you off at this moment, but I'm getting the message we're fresh out of time.
I want to do this again.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Well, first of all,
we'll definitely have to do it again.
Yeah.
I'll definitely go on your website. I'm very familiar with who you are, and thank you for taking the time to answer my question. You're awesome, Jeremiah.
You too. Thank you, Tamara. Always love to hear from you, and thank you so much for your support. So I'm sorry to the callers who we didn't get to. We obviously had a lot that we covered here in the past hour, so please circulate the archive of this program, thebassline.podbean.com. All the shows are there. Go check out the previous interview with Dr. Horowitz. Please check out my interview with Destiny Resendez and all the others. Thank you so much, Dr. Horowitz. Always great to hear from you. So glad that you took the time to join us today. Talk to you soon, my friend.
Pleasure. God bless. Take care, Jeremiah.
Bless you too. Peace.